welcome to Dead Money Sports Gambling Parlor here on YouTube. It's the early line show for the divisional round of the NFL playoffs. We have finally gotten the final four matchups after the Houston Texans were able to defeat the Pittsburgh Steelers in a defensive masterclass by the Houston Texans. What a game that was. Breaking news, Mike Tomlin of the Pittsburgh Steelers has decided to step down. No longer the head coach of the Pittsburgh Steelers. Kind of poetic that he and Harbaugh go out the same year. And we're going to have a new era in the AFC North. But, yeah, they got dominated by the Houston Texans in that game on Monday night. That Texans defense just looked phenomenal. Their offense, though, not so good. But so now we've got our four games and the time slots and dates. So let's go ahead and get into these games and to see which sides we like. Now, the first matchup on Saturday is the Buffalo Bills heading to Denver to take on the Broncos. Buffalo was able to get the win in Jacksonville. Needed a comeback to do it. And Denver is coming off the bye as they were the number one seed. And now Buffalo has to go on the road back-to-back weeks and face this Denver team. Now, the Broncos have been one of the better defensive teams all year. Their offense has a great offensive line. Not the best group of wide receivers, but they do have playmakers, and the running game has been pretty good this year. Meanwhile, Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills, one of the better offensive lines as well. Obviously, James Cook's a star. Josh Allen, reigning MVP. Got some contributions from their wide receivers like Brandon Cooks, guy they brought in off the street this season, and their tight ends played a big part. Also, Shakir was had a good game against Jacksonville. This is by far the hardest game to handicap when it comes to picking a side. In this one, I do like the total under 46.5. This line is on the move. As it is now, it is consensus 46.5. I do like the under in this game. I think it's going to be a defensive struggle for both teams. I think we're going to see some field goals in this one, obviously being in Denver. The high altitude, it's going to be cold, but the altitude does help the ball travel. So we could see some longer field goals in this one. Again, my best bet is the under 46.5 in this one, as I have a 21-20 Buffalo victory in this one. But again, this could go either way. This line was originally Denver plus 1.5 to open. Right? Well, it's saying it opened as a pick, but I saw it as Denver plus 1.5. And now we're looking at essentially a consensus pick again. You've got some 1.5s, minus, it's back and forth depending on where you're at. You can find which, if you want that point, or if you're betting it on the money line, which would be the right way to go, no matter which side you decide to take, because this line is so short that taking 1 point, really doesn't make sense. But my outcome of this game is a Buffalo win, 21-20. But again, this could go either way. So I really like the under 46.5 in this first matchup. The second game on Saturday is a rematch of a Week 18 game between the San Francisco 49ers and the Seattle Seahawks. NFC West rivals. This game has a lot of history to it. Again, they played in Week 18. They also played Week 1, each team winning a game. So this is the rubber match. San Francisco obviously suffered a big loss to their offense, losing George Kittle in that game that they were able to win over the Eagles. Meanwhile, Seattle, number 1 seed, NFC West champion, is going to be coming off the bye. They're at home. Shanahan has been good in these spots. So has McDonald, but McDonald obviously a newer coach going up against Shanahan. My best bet is the over 45.5, as this line has dropped. It opened higher than that, but it now is a consensus of 45.5. And I like the over if you can get it below 45.5. If you can find a 45 out there, obviously look for your best number possible. We're seeing the unders getting 69% of the tickets and 84% of the money. So this line could potentially drop. So maybe wait on that one. Now, as far as the outcome in this game, I have Seattle on the money line, and I also like Seattle -7. I know it's 7.5 is the consensus. If you can find 7, like there's a juiced 7, -115. It opened at -7. It's moved up. I have this as a 28-20 victory by Seattle. Not a very big margin over the 7 to 7.5 this line sitting at, but I do think Seattle's going to win this game. They win by 8 points. It's just just by that half a point over what we're seeing, and obviously goes over the 45.5. I think Seattle's offense will be able to move the ball, and their defense could hold San Francisco to some field goals, maybe create some turnovers. My only concern is Darnold did lead the league in turnovers with 20 combined interceptions and fumbles, so he's got to protect the ball. I think they will. They're going to rely on the run game a lot more, as they've been running the ball more efficiently over the final few weeks of the season. I think playing in Seattle obviously has a big effect on teams, as that home field advantage is one of the real home field advantages in the NFL. And I do think that they're going to get the victory. It's going to be a tight game. So I'm sure San Francisco will have an opportunity to possess the ball and tie this game, being up one possession with an 8-point lead. But I do see it as a 28-20 Seattle victory, going over the total of 45.5 and covering the number of -7 to -7.5. Moving on to our 2 Sunday games. The first matchup starting at noon my time. Noon on the Pacific time zone, is the Houston Texans going to New England to take on the Patriots. Everybody just saw that dominant performance by Houston's defense over the Pittsburgh Steelers. New England with a dominant performance of their own on defense against the Chargers. But both of those teams were playing offenses that were not very good. This total is at 41.5. I made it. Now, obviously, this was prior to the performance against the Steelers. I had this as a between 45.5 and 44.5 total. Obviously, with the way the two teams played defensively in their wild card round, this line is much lower than that. It's going off at, you can find it anywhere from 41.5, 41. There's some 40.5s out there. So obviously the under, and if you look at the tickets, 72% of the bets are on the under, 89% of the money. Yeah, consensus is 41. If you can find it even better at 40.5, like we're seeing here at some of these other shops, I'm sure this line is going to go down as well, under as well. I like the over. I like the over in this game. I have a New England win, 24-20. It's not going to be a barn burner. I also think this is another game where we could see some field goals. Defense is going back and forth, but we're going to see some big shots in the passing game from New England. Drake May's legs may be the difference in this one. Is Nico Collins out for the Texans? That's going to be a big deal. He left that game with a concussion. Didn't look good as he went directly into the locker room. So there's a real possibility he doesn't play in this game. That's significant for the offense of the Houston Texans. I mean, obviously that game, this final score of that Steelers game against their Houston versus Pittsburgh game was a little misleading in the fact that they scored 2 defensive touchdowns. If you take those 2 defensive touchdowns away, that's a much closer game, as Houston's offense was not able to do very much against an opportunistic Steelers defense. And I think Mike Vrabel is one of the better game-by-game strategists in the NFL. I think he's going to have his defense geared up to stop this Houston offense. Is Gonzalez going to be back for Houston, for the Patriots? That's going to be another question mark. We're going to have to keep our eyes on that one because he's an integral part of how they play defense. But I think New England's defense will be able to play a good game against Houston. Houston's defense will give up 1 or 2 big plays, even though they are a dynamic defense as well. I think they were playing some flawed teams. If you go back and look at the 2 games that they played leading up to the end of the regular season, teams were able to run the ball on them, even though Rankins is back and he's making a difference in that interior on the defensive line. I think New England gets the job done here. So I have New England on the money line. I'd lay the 3. I believe it may have gone down. There are some 2.5s out there. If you could find it, that's even better. Or opened at 2.5. We're pretty much seeing 3 across the board here. A couple 3.5s out there. I know it opened at 3. But I have this as a 4-point victory for New England. 24-20, going over the total of anywhere from 40.5 to 41.5, where we're at now. And the final game of the divisional round is the Los Angeles Rams going to Chicago to take on the Bears. Chicago with a credible come-from-behind victory over Green Bay. Really struggled in the first half offensively and defensively, and then were able to turn it all the way around, man. They're just like a second-half team. Meanwhile, the Rams played a good game offensively. Defensively, they did struggle at times against the Carolina Panthers, but the Carolina Panthers have an offense, man. A lot of people don't want to give them credit, but I know the quarterback isn't the best, but they've got receivers, running backs, and an offensive line, and that's a pretty damn good combination to have. But the Rams and Matthew Stafford, even with his banged-up finger, were able to get the job done and win that game, even though they did not cover the spread in that one. They did lose Weatherspoon, I believe it is, their cornerback, so that's a tough loss for them. Chicago lost some key players as well. I believe they lost their tackle, their starting left tackle. And they also lost their starting linebacker in Edwards. They're both done for the year with significant injuries, so that's a difficult loss for the Chicago Bears. I like the under 50.5 in this one. This line is on the move also. It's all the way down to 49 in some places, or consensus. They're showing it as opened as 50, or 51, sorry. And now we're seeing all the way down to 48.5, 49, 48.5. We still have some higher ones at 51.5 at the Hard Rock. May not have been adjusted just yet, but I like the under in this game. I have this as a 24-18 victory for the Los Angeles Rams. So I like the Rams on the money line. I also like the Rams minus the 3.5. It opened at 4.5. It is now sitting at a consensus of 3.5. Be sure to shop around. Try to get the best number you can. Again, as this one is on the move, we're seeing 53% of the tickets and 78% of the money is on Chicago. Now we see why this line is on the move. But I still like the Rams here. I think it's a 6-point victory, and I believe it stays on the under this number. I have it as a 42-point game, 24-18. I think Chicago struggles to move the ball against this really good Rams defense. And the Rams, they'll move the ball. Chicago is opportunistic with turnovers, but not great. They look good in the second half against Green Bay, but that was an outlier performance. That's not how it's been. They don't really get pressure on the quarterback, which means Matthew Stafford's going to have an opportunity to stand back in the pocket and find his receivers. Obviously, with Nakua and Adams and their tight ends, and then the running game for the Rams, I think it's just too much for Chicago to overcome. They've had a great season. It was obviously fun to watch in that game when they came back, even though I had Green Bay on the money line, so it kind of sucked that they lost. Overall, the Chicago Bears have had a great season. Ben Johnson's got this team going in the right direction, but I think it's just this Rams team is on a mission. McVay's going to have them ready to go. I don't think the elements are going to be that much of a factor, even though it's supposed to be cold in Chicago. We'll have to see about the wind and the weather as we progress closer to the weekend. But I do like the Los Angeles Rams laying the -3.5, but I really like the under. Where is it now? At anywhere from 50.5 to 49. I have this as a 42-point game, so I think this line is really inflated. So I'm more than comfortable with laying it, even with the line moving down to 49. There you have it. That is my take for the early lines for the divisional round of the NFL playoffs. Be sure to join me here on YouTube for the selection show, as we will have our final picks, our best bets going into the divisional round on Friday. But this is where we stand as far as the side and total for the full game in the divisional round on these early lines. Well, to everybody out there, hopefully you made some money on the wild card round. Let's roll that over into the divisional round, make some more money. That way we have a nice bankroll going into the final 3 games of the NFL season. And we also have the Monday national championship game between Miami and Indiana. We'll be live streaming right here on YouTube. We'll also be live streaming during the San Francisco-Seattle game for the divisional round, as well as the Rams-Chicago Bears game on Sunday. So be sure to hit that notification bell so you're made aware when all these videos go live. To everybody out there, thank you for joining me all season. Let's make some money in these final weeks. Have a great day and take care of yourselves.